Hi guys, it's Candy. Welcome back. So I'm so excited to be bringing you guys a brand new episode of Ask Candi. I used to do these videos a couple years ago. I had a couple different ways that I would do these videos. One was where you guys would just ask me questions about myself and I was just sharing like my knowledge and wisdom when it comes to like business, finances, parenting, mental health, pretty much any topic. Nothing was really kind of off limits. And then the other side of it was, because I have all these in a playlist, I'll link it down below if you want to check out like old episodes, is more where people were writing in Ask Candi, kind of like the old-fashioned Ask Abby, where people would write in and ask for advice, or there's other versions of that on like radio talk shows or whatever. That's the kind of the part. I love talking about myself, don't get me wrong, but I really like people writing in more so with like advice on just things that are more personally related to your own life, and then I can just bring my thoughts, opinions, experiences to the table and hopefully help you out in some way. So that's what we're going to do for today. I had talked about maybe doing every other Sunday with these episodes. So if you guys are watching this video and you want to participate in the next episode, there's two ways you can ask me questions. One is through Instagram. Send me a DM. Put at the top, Ask Candi, so I know that this is where you want me to answer your question. And it's always going to be anonymous. I'll never share your name or Instagram account or anything like that. And then the other way is to email me through mail at ourfamilynest.com and put Ask Candi in the subject and ask your question that way. So we're just going to hop right into it. The first question we have today is advice on saving money. I have a shopping addiction, LOL. Well, don't we all? It really depends. Like, this question kind of depends on where you're at in your stage of life. Are you, kind of like Andrew, where you're younger and Andrew saves all of his money to purchase a home someday? Or are you more like middle-aged and you have kids and you're just trying to quit spending money on things you don't need? Or are you more like Ken and I, where we're more at our later stage in life where our money, our extra money, goes towards retirement? So there's a couple different ways to look at this, because if you're where Ken and I are, I feel like the easiest way to do it is to have it just automatically withdrawn from your account every month. This is the easiest way to kind of save money for IRAs, mutual funds, any kind of investments. And when it comes to that stuff, I definitely say meet with a financial advisor and get an expert's opinion on like where to invest your money to best benefit you for retirement. So on the other end of things, if you're more like Andrew or even more like, Carly, Blake, or Chase, the best way I feel like to save money is to kind of get an idea of what your budget is, write it down, rent or utilities, gas for your car, food for the month, or food for the 2 weeks for that pay period, whatever it may be. If you have it all written down and you're like, wow, after I get paid, I should have $400 left over, but I never have that $400 left over. Where does that money go? I would suggest starting out small and say, okay, I have $400 left over after all my bills. Let's take half of that, at least half of that, $200, transfer it to a savings that you're just going to have the willpower to not use it. And do that right when you get paid. Don't even wait until you pay all your bills and see what's left over, because then there's never going to be anything left over, because you're going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to go out on Friday night and spend $100 out at dinner and drinks, and then I needed a new purse and etc. So, you're always going to find something to spend your money on. So do it right when you get paid. Know, okay, according to my budget, I should have $400 left over. Let's take half of it, transfer it into my savings, and you just have to promise yourself to not touch it. Have to have the willpower. Okay, next question is long distance relationship advice, if you have any. I know it's always communication, but I'm also bad at communicating my feelings. So any advice on that too, maybe. So I feel like, especially if you're the type of person that maybe has trouble communicating, I always think of that being like a verbal thing, try just writing things down. I don't know if it would be awkward for you to just tell your significant other, like, this is like, nothing's bad, nothing's wrong. However, these are just some things that have been on my mind. And just take your time over like multiple days, however long it takes you, to write an email and just share how you're feeling about everything. Like, hey, I wish we would talk more on the phone or FaceTime more. Or I see some people who have long distance relationships, they have like virtual date nights where you literally like get all dressed up like as if you were going out on a date, pick out a movie, you're both gonna watch it while you're FaceTiming, you're also both gonna like cook your favorite dinner, and so it's almost like you're together but you're not, just because you're not in front of each other, but you are through your phones, and kind of just really make it like it's an actual date versus, oh, we've both worked all day, we're both tired, we come home, we're, you know, in our sweats or yoga pants or whatever, kind of just lounging around, being lazy, barely paying attention to each other while we're trying to have this conversation on the phone. And I'm not saying you have to do that all the time, but make it seem more like you're actually putting the effort in to date this person, even though it's not in person. But yeah, for the communication part, I would say if there's ever a time that I would feel like I was really struggling to communicate something to not just Ken, but even maybe one of my kids or even a friend, I always feel like writing things down is the best, because then you can say everything that you have to say, make sure all your feelings are coming out clearly, and then give that person a chance to read over it multiple times and respond. And it doesn't have to seem like so heavy. It doesn't mean the things that you're talking about are like these super big life-changing conversations. It's more so just like, hey, I've had these things on my mind. This is some things I want to talk about. I just feel like writing them down because I just want to be able to share my thoughts more clearly. I don't know, I would give that a try. Okay, so this person said, I'm wondering what to do when you're an adult but have little 5-year-old siblings who you won't get to see without seeing my abusive parent. How do I continue to put myself first without limiting access to my sisters? So then I also said, are you able to drive? Because I feel like that could play an important part in this. I don't drive, but I live in the same town as her. She won't let me see my sisters without being there. My advice in this situation is, first of all, for your own mental health and well-being, is try not to focus so much on the part that you can't control. You can't control if your parent is not going to allow you to see your siblings without them present. Don't focus so much on that, because you're just going to beat yourself up over it. I am curious, however, like if this parent is abusive, is he or she being abusive to your 5-year-old siblings? If so, is that something where you need to get the state involved? And I don't know, are you old enough that you would be able to take care of them instead? Like, I don't know, that part makes me nervous to not speak up about that. When you say a parent's abusive, like, are they abusive to your siblings? Because, like I said, that's a whole issue in itself. But then when it comes to, let's assume the parent's not being abusive to your siblings, because there's many different forms of abuse too. So let's assume they're not being abusive to your siblings, but you just want to make sure you maintain some sort of relationship with them. You're going to kind of have to do the best you can to follow by their rules. And if it's, I'm not going to let you spend time with them alone, well, then you're going to have to see if they're willing to take them to a park so you can play with them at the park for a little bit, or in their backyard where maybe they're in the house and they can look out the window and see that you're there playing with them, hanging out, but you know, maybe not just like right on top of them. I don't know, that's a really tough situation. I probably should have asked how old you were as well, because I feel like, you know, if you're just 18 and you're moved out, I'm really concerned with like if your life has been this life of abuse with this parent, and I know you want to have a relationship with your siblings, but you really need to make sure you're focusing on taking care of yourself first, like your own mental health, and make sure you're in a good, healthy space for your siblings, if that makes sense. I don't know, this is a really tough one. I'm sorry you're in this situation, and I hope maybe as time goes on, you're able to have a better relationship. with your parents so you can have your siblings in your life in some way. Okay, the next question is, one of my parents is unwell at the moment, and I was hoping you could give some advice on how to navigate the death of a parent. I think the most important thing here is, number one, know that there are no rules. There isn't some certain guideline that, oh, you know, if your parent is dying, these are the 10 things you absolutely must do. This is how often you should visit. These are the things you should say, etc. I think the most important thing is, and was for me, like when my dad was sick, is I don't want to have any regrets. I don't want it to be where someday he's no longer here and I wish I would have done or said any of these certain things. And I think that's the only thing you can do is think about, like, if you're telling yourself, like, I'm not visiting enough, or I'm not talking to him or her enough, or you're feeling like guilty about anything, make sure you deal with those thoughts and emotions before it's too late. But just know that, like, no one's judging you. No one's telling you that there's any certain rules, any certain amount of time that you have to spend with the person. Just do what feels right for you. I have friends who have gone through this. I have one friend who was constantly at their parents' bedside, there every day, part of the process every single day. I have another friend who went through it who wasn't there all that often because that's how they could handle for, you know, their own mental health, and they have other young children and things going on at the same time. Like, you still have to live, you still have your life and priorities and probably a job or whatever. So I think it's just more so, if you're really struggling with how you feel, journal, because I feel like that can help you sort through all of your feelings, and just make sure on a daily basis you're not having regrets. Like, oh, I know I should have talked to him or her today, or I should have went to go see him or her today. Don't allow yourself to build up a bunch of guilt, because once that person's gone, you can't go back and fix it. Make sure you're doing what you need to do and you feel good about the amount of time and attention and love you're giving that person on their final days. Okay, here's a good question. When being in a long-term relationship, how do you make sure you don't get tired or bored of each other? Okay, this person definitely looks younger, so it's such a cute question that someone like younger is asking that versus, you know, like, you obviously have not been married 30 years and you're bored of your husband and need advice. You're thinking of it more from maybe you've been dating someone for a while. I think it would be fun if you sat down, the two of you, and just made a list of things that you've always wanted to do. Like, maybe you've always wanted to try skiing, or maybe you wish you would go on more walks together. Maybe you want to take a cooking class together. Like, I think it's really important when you're younger to make sure that you're, like, your dreams for your future don't just become part of, like, what your partner's dreams are for the future. Make sure, like, all those things that you've always wanted to do as, like, a little girl or a young girl, you're bringing those things to the relationship. Like, I've always wanted to travel here or visit there, or try this sport or activity, and, like, do those things. Like, encourage each other to try new things, or continue just doing the things together that you love. Like, Ken and I, we go to, like, dinner and the movies, like, all the time, and it may sound like super boring to some people, but you guys know me. I live for movies, TV shows, books. We love going out to dinner and having a good meal. Like, that's the kind of stuff that makes us happy together as a couple. So I don't know, I think it would be fun to sit down with your significant other and maybe at the beginning of every year, make a list of, like, what are some things that we want to do together this year, and then just work throughout the year on checking things off the list. Okay, so I got this really long story that I really feel is, like, a good story, but it would take me quite a while to read it out. So let's just say that these two people, they knew each other a long time ago, but they ran into each other, and next thing you know, they started hooking up. One of them is 21, the girl's 21, and the guy is 30. He's ghosted her a few times, not answered her texts, but then after a period of time, they'll start texting again, hooking up again, and so forth. And she's starting to feel as though he's only coming to her when he wants to hook up, or maybe when he's bored and doesn't have anything else going on in his life. That's the gist of what I'm getting out of this situation. So she says, I feel like I know what your advice is going to be done with him. Trust me, I've heard it from my friends, but I think part of me has hope things will go back to the way they were. Also, I don't even know what I want. I'm not looking for a relationship, but want the elements of one. So here's what I say to these types of situations. Whether you're 21 or 41, I don't think it matters. And I don't think it matters how old the other person is. Like, those types of relationships do work out for people. So taking, like, I'm not even gonna think of the age difference, okay? I think of it more so that if the relationship is fulfilling your needs, if you are happy on a day-to-day basis, go with it. Like, until it's not working for you anymore, why rock the boat? Like, if the amount of times that you talk to him in a month, the amount of times you see him in a month, the amount of times you hook up with him in a month makes you overall happy, why stop at this point? But if you're finding yourself like complaining about him every day, telling your friends that you're upset, he's not texting you back, you haven't heard from him in a week, he's hurting your feelings, you're crying over it, then I would stop. I would really look at yourself in the mirror, and you know that you deserve better than what you're getting from this type of relationship. But I don't know, I can't help but sit here and think like, hey, if at the end of the day you're 21 and whatever it is you're doing in your life, if this works for you, if this makes you happy, there's no rules. It's just when it gets to the point that you're not happy anymore and you need more from a relationship, you want more from a relationship, you want a boyfriend, so to speak, then that's when you kind of need to face the music that like, that's not what this guy is willing to give you. Or maybe you need to ask him next time you see him, like, hey, we've been doing this for whatever period of time, like, I'm ready for the next stage of this relationship. Like, I want a boyfriend. And if he's not willing to meet that need, then on to the next guy. Like, don't continue to waste your time with someone with the hopes that them becoming who you want them to be. Like, he's showing you who he is, you know what I mean? On the other hand, I think at least deserves a conversation between the two of you if you decide that you do want more from the relationship, and see if he's willing to meet your needs. And if he looks at you like you're crazy and be like, you know, no, I like how things are right now, then you know you have your answer and it's time to move on. Next one is, I need some advice on friendships, how to get over a good friendship. So I said, can you be a little bit more specific? And she said, yes, I've been friends with my friend for 10 years and all of a sudden she stopped talking to me. I've tried texting and calling her, but she hasn't responded. I'm having a hard time moving on, and I miss our friendship for sure. I tried thinking to myself, what did I do to her? And I can't think of what it is. I know I need to give her space and maybe she will come around, but it's hard. This is a really tough one because if I base it off my own personal experiences, I have a friendship that was a very, very long-term friendship that something did happen and I decided to stop talking to that person. I stopped allowing that person to be part of my life. And years later, when she did reach out and say, can we just talk? Can you explain to me what happened? Like, I'm so confused. And the couple things that she thought were the reasons why I was no longer talking to her were not even on this, like, the right track of the real reason why I stopped talking to her. And I don't know, I stood my ground and I just felt like she hurt me so badly that it wouldn't have mattered what she said or did. The relationship, the friendship could never possibly be repaired. And I, at that point, all those years later, didn't feel like I owed her an explanation. Like, obviously she didn't care enough back then when I stopped talking to her to ask what was wrong. So why do we need to talk about it 10 years, 15 years later? So bringing that into this situation for you to say like you're trying to give her space, at the same time, I sort of can't help but feel like if you let too much time go by, it's gonna fall into the same situation of what happened to me. That it was like you didn't really care enough back then that I stopped talking to you. So I don't care enough now. Does that make sense? So if the friendship is really that important to you and you really want to know, I would say don't give up. and just be honest and say, I'm trying to respect your boundaries. I'm just trying to understand. Can you please explain to me what happened? If we really truly can't repair this friendship and I need to accept that and move on, I will give you that space. But can you please, at least after we've been friends for 10 years, can we please at least talk about this? Can you please just give me some sort of explanation or time in your day for us to talk so we can try to work this out? I would say that if that was me on the other end, I would appreciate your persistence, and I think I would finally either give in and tell you what it is that's made me upset, or throw you some cuss words and say, I'm done, don't text me again, and be rude. But at least you're gonna have an answer either way. But I feel like I wouldn't just give up. I would keep trying. Okay, last one for today is going to be, I feel like I have always struggled with trusting my boyfriend of almost 6 years. Not because he's done anything to make me not trust him, but because I get in my head and overthink things and then just make myself upset, and it causes problems. I like to be reassured, which helps, but he never does. Even if I let him know, it helps me be less paranoid. Any suggestions to help get through those situations? Hello, gal. Ditto. I could have said all those same things when I was younger, in my 20s, after being in a relationship where I was lied to multiple times. You guys have all heard this stuff before. When you're in a relationship with someone and your trust is broken, unfortunately, the next person that you date has to deal with all of the baggage that you bring along from your previous relationship. And I think it really takes for that person to understand and accept and know that they haven't done anything wrong to break your trust, that these are just the scars that you have from the previous relationship. And thankfully, Ken was always supportive in that way. Not that we didn't have our fights and blow-ups, and he would, have to defend himself in situations that really should have never been there in the first place, but they were because of my past. My number one advice would be, if I could go back to my 20-some-year-old self and give myself advice, it would be to go see a therapist, because I think it really would have been amazing to get professional help to help me work through my trust issues much quicker than I ever did on my own, because it's been hard. And then number two is almost learning to accept the fact that you're just going to be this type of person that's never going to trust anyone 100%. Not your boyfriend, and not even if this boyfriend becomes your husband. It still doesn't change things, because you still just have these scars that you're dealing with that are always going to make it difficult, because you're just protecting yourself. You're protecting your heart. You don't want to get hurt. And it's always the unknown that drives us crazy and bothers us the most, because we want to feel like we're in control. Because if we're in control, then no one can hurt us. That's why we feel like if we have all the details of where you're going, who you're with, who are you talking to when you get there, that we think it's going to make us feel better. But in the end, it really doesn't matter how much information they tell you, how open they are, how honest they are, how forthcoming they are with anything that you want to know. You're still always going to have that doubt. So I think for me, what's kind of helped more so than anything is just accepting the fact that no matter what, I'm never going to trust 100%. And that's okay. I actually told Ken that recently, because we were having a conversation with some of the kids, and I looked right at Ken and I said, I will never trust you 100%. I will never sit here and tell someone, hand on the Bible, I know no matter what, Ken would never lie to me or cheat on me, because that is not the truth. Because anything can happen. I could meet someone and cheat on him. We have the choice every day to be loyal and loving to who we're with. You who are dealing with these trust issues, you could do the same thing. You could lie to him. You could cheat on him. You have that choice. So I feel like this probably isn't helping, but I just feel like once you finally get to that point in your life where you can accept and know that, hey, it could happen. There's nothing I can do to stop it from happening, but I want to live in a better headspace I want to be happy on a daily basis. I don't want to live in this misery, this place of constant worry that something bad could happen and I not be in control. So you just kind of have to finally put your guard down and say, you know what, if it happens, I'll deal with it if and when it happens, but I'm gonna be okay because I survived it once before and I can survive it again. You just have to finally get that strength within yourself to know that you will be okay. It's gonna not have anything to do with what your boyfriend says to you, because there's nothing he can say or do to make you trust him more than you do, or worry about him when he's not with you any less. Again, it's more so just from inside yourself of telling yourself, I will be okay. I will survive this. I will be sad. It will be hard, but I have my friends, I have my family, and you just have to make that decision. I want to enjoy life. I want to be present when I'm with him and be happy when I'm with him and not worrying about things that you can't control. Because the truth is it doesn't matter if we worry about these types of things 10 hours a day. Every waking hour, we could worry about it. It still isn't going to stop it from happening if it's going to happen. So just be happy. Just enjoy it. Until this man gives you a reason to not trust him, you have to just learn to let go. All right, guys, so that is going to be it for this video. I had one more email that I had received. It's kind of a little bit longer story. We're going to save that one for the next episode. If you guys want more episodes, comment down below if you like these videos or not. At this point, with my channel and obviously with not really having the content in our lives to vlog all the time, I love just trying different kinds of videos. Like we did the cooking videos on Friday, and Ken has his Kicking It With Ken videos on Thursdays, and I just love chatting with you guys about all different types of topics. And when you guys ask me questions, it just, I don't know, I really enjoy this type of video. So hopefully you guys do too. If you do, comment down below. We'll come back with another episode in 2 weeks. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.